increases for the wealthy, even though it is actually against their own interests to be so. Ben, thank you. Claire is in Hull. Claire, what would you like to say?
Hi, yes. Yeah, I've just called in to say that I really have mixed views, but the points I would like to make is, well, first of all, just in terms of a little bit of background, I was a mother at 16.
Gosh.
So I drew on the public purse for probably 3 or 4 years before I got a full-time job, put my daughter in nursery, and did a part-time degree for 5 years. So now I'm in a position, I'm nearly 50, I'm a net income contributor, I'm a 40% taxpayer. So essentially...
How do you know you're a net income contributor? Just out of curiosity, I'm not nitpicking.
Well, apparently the definition of that is, I read in one of the papers, is I'm paying more money in than I'm pulling out the state.
But how do you know? How do you know that? Because I mean, if you got a relative who's poorly or someone who's relying on the NHS, how do we calculate that? Do you mean simply in terms of, like, for you personally, the measurable...
For me personally, I have no dependents. I was looking after an elderly father, but again, he was self-funded. He had to pay the £1,400 a week care. So, you know, that all helps build the picture. But to your point, have I sat down and done the maths? No, I haven't.
No, I hadn't come across the phrase before. I see it in the context of immigration quite often, but I've never really applied it to myself. I presume I'm in the same category as you.
Yes. Anyway, the point I'm making is the pot is only so big. There is only so many people working and paying into that pot. There's a massive unemployment problem. And as we all know, a great deal of that problem is that people are opting out of working, as if it's a choice.
Yeah.
We've also got the immigration situation, and I don't really want to delve into that.
Well, no, you must now, because you've raised it, because that's then...
We've got a whole stack of people.
Yes, but immigrants are net contributors more so than people who were born here. And, of course, we don't shoulder the cost of educating them or providing healthcare for them for the first 18 years of their life. So immigration actually is in favour of the British-born taxpayer. But it's interesting that you believe the opposite. Why do you think that is?
When I say immigration, I mean the votes. That's what I'm referring to. So when they come over
you mean
here,
asylum seekers? So tens of thousands of people a year making a more or less negligible dent in the national budget, and of course they're desperate to work and they're prevented from doing so by law. So they're a very odd target to pick on when you're trying, but a very popular one, of course, because of the effort.
A very popular one. Okay, so maybe one,
but completely false and completely bogus, and of course it appeals to possibly some of our worst impulses, to feel resentful about people who are risking their lives in pursuit of safety when you're thinking about your own taxes.
So, to your point, it is a contributor, albeit it may be a minor, when you look at...
But it's the first one you chose. It's the first one you chose after the other myth of the great armies of people who are choosing to claim unemployment benefit and living a life of Riley instead of working. So proven myths there, which are your basic reasons, your first cited reasons for being resentful of paying your tax. When your dad was ill...
Oh, sorry. I think you put words that I'm not resentful of paying tax whatsoever.
Oh, good.
If there was a need to increase taxes, absolutely,
well, there clearly is.
I would be...
There clearly is a need. You've seen the state of the prisons, you've seen the state of the court services, you've seen the state of the hospitals, you've seen the state of the schools. Our army is the smallest it's been since the Napoleonic Wars. Our police force is on its knees. The probation service is hemorrhaging people. Public servants haven't had real terms pay rises since the Tories got in. Nurses had to take industrial action to get a decent settlement. So did doctors.
Can I finish?
Well, no, we're having a conversation. You say things, and I point out that they're not necessarily correct.
So you're telling me things that we all know.
Right.
And yes, I'd be more than happy to pay a larger proportion of my salary as taxes if there were some level of assurance, and I know it's hard to quantify, some level of assurance that things would improve. But I do think perhaps...
But they always do, Claire. They always do.
But a starting point could be address some of the low-hanging fruit. Okay, where is there perhaps mismanagement? Where is some of that existing money hemorrhaging? I have a very close family member.
Oh.
There's absolutely no reason why they shouldn't be out working.
And how much do they get? How much do they make?
Oh, well, they're on this enhanced fitness benefit.
And what does that mean?
Well, from what I can gather, it's a £500 a month minimum. then the rent paid, then the council tax paid, and there's a staggering amount. And
why haven't you reported them?
It's so if they go through an assessment with a psychiatrist, and they're deemed as not fit for work.
Yes.
There's
but you know better.
Well,
just run me through your psychiatric training while you're here, Claire.
Well, I know this certain individual.
But this is your relative. This is your relative. So your relative is the problem. Have they never worked? Have they never paid in? Did their parents pay in? Did their parents pay into the system?
Yeah.
Do their children? Are their children likely to pay into the system? See, when I pay my tax, I'm confident, for now at least, at this stage in my life, that I'm probably not going to need psychiatric assessment on the NHS. But my God, I want the people who need it to get it. Why don't you?
So why don't I what?
Why don't you want people who need psychiatric help to get it?
I'm talking about the people. As you will know, James, it's a very naive view to suggest that there's people out there.
No, all I ever hear is people who know someone who doesn't need it. And then when I ask whether they've been assessed by professionals who know better than amateurs, the answer is usually yes, they have, but I'm still resentful of it.
All right, then. Okay, so let me just...
What do you think the percentage of claims for benefit is that is found to be fraudulent in this country? You must know.
I don't know that.
0.7%.
And is that? Do you think that could be reflective of the amount that's investigated?
No, of course not. They put enormous amounts of effort into trying to track down benefit fraud, into trying to track down overpayments, and no effort whatsoever into trying to track down underpayment. Do you know why, Claire?
Why is that?
Because of people like you.
Why is that?
Because of people like you.
Well, elaborate.
Well, you start with the opinions you've got that everyone's swinging the lead and taking the mickey, and right wing. Oh, no, forgive me. Just your relative. Your relative. Well, no, you did come on and say loads of people are choosing through choice. You did say that,
I did.
And yet it's 0.7% that's benefit fraud.
Well, and
the only example you've got is your relative, whose psychiatric assessment you query with absolutely no qualifications whatsoever.
Well,
and that's why you've got, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you've rung in to explain why people have a problem with paying tax, and all you've done is cite falsehoods, cliches, and unpleasantness with regard to your own relative.
So I haven't said that people don't want to pay tax, and I don't want to pay tax. If you recall, I said I personally would.
I know.
Be happy to increase mine. However, I think it could be a two-prong approach.
No, you gave me the reasons why you're not in that place yet, and I listened very carefully.
What do you mean? Can you elaborate?
Yes, of course I can. You gave me the reasons why you're not in the place at the moment where you would be happy paying. And also, I don't know that income tax is what we're talking about today. It's capital gains tax, but that was the list of things you gave me were the reasons why you're not currently in a place where you would want to pay more tax.
So I don't recall saying I wouldn't feel comfortable paying tax. I said I would.
Okay.
I said, although I do think that the current pot, I mean, when you look at the likes of, for reasons why I think we genuinely do need to pay more into the pot.
Yes.
My father, he recently nursed him to his death, Parkinson's.
Yes.
There was an absolute ton of money thrown at my father. He's underweight. He needs a dietitian. His speech isn't very good. He needs speech and language. He needs this, he needs that.
Yes.
All this money has got to come from somewhere.
Well, exactly.
And so it's got to come out of the public purse.
Yes.
And for reasons like that, people are living longer. If people are living, not dying at 65 and now dying at 85, you know, the pension contributions are going to be far greater. Keeping them alive and healthy and giving them a quality
So we all
life.
need to pay more tax because of people like your dad.
Exactly so.
So why were we talking about small boats 10 minutes ago?
Because I do feel there is a whole host that I don't feel it's one silver bullet.
Do you see how it works?
Do I see how what works?
Because you're talking about the small boats. The politicians get away with not looking after your dad.
I disagree there because my father was well looked after.
Yeah, but the direction of traffic, you've got Robert Jenrick talking about tax cuts at the moment. So what happens to people like your dad if there's even less money going in to the public pot? Yeah. Answer, oh, well, we'll just deal with the immigrants and there'll be lots of money left for the rest of us. And that creates the kind of problems that many families are already facing in this country.
So as I kept trying to
Or they
say,
won't get. I'm very, very, very late for the news, Claire. But they won't get the psychiatric treatment that they need. They won't get the psychiatric assessment that they need. They won't get the police turning up when they dial 999. They won't get an ambulance when they want one. They won't feel safe with regard to our military presence in other parts of the world. They won't feel safe with regard to the prisons, or they won't get a criminal actually tried in court if they become a victim of crime. So all of the reasons why we need more tax.
Yes.
Don't get undermined by a few thousand people trying to come here largely to work in small boats across the English Channel, do they? Or by your relative who you think is lying about their mental health.
So, again, I've said a couple of times now before you keep interrupting me.
Well, I'm not really. I'm listening to everything you say and responding very politely.
I don't feel there's a silver bullet in saying, if we address this, if we do this or do that, everything's going to be fine.
No one is suggesting that. What I was trying to work out today is why, when it is obvious that we should be raising more money to look after people like your dad, some people who can see that very, very clearly are still resistant to the idea. And I'm really grateful to you for answering those questions. Good Lord, it's 10:37. Thomas Watts has your headlines.
It's understandable.